If you're in or considering going into a transition period, considering your next chapter, your next step, pivoting away from something you've been doing for a while, this is a hint and maybe a shortcut too, to work that you're inevitably going to have to do. That is recalibrating your understanding of your value. Because most of us who have grown up, climbed ladders, succeeded in corporate environments, moved into senior executive roles, or even if you've run your own business, you've largely understood your value based off your productivity, based off your ability to do certain things, either to be helpful, useful, productive, like some measures determined by other people, by an organization, by a system, by the market. You've understood your value based off your ability to build, to streamline and operate things, to make money, to market, to hit certain KPIs that someone else decided. Or you've intrinsically understood that what you do has to be measured by someone, something, or maybe even yourself. But when we're in that transition space, that space where you're reimagining what could be possible for your life, part of the blank canvas, part of the clean slate that you have to try and provide for yourself as much as possible is also a clean slate on what your value is. And if you are used to your value being determined by something outside of you, external, like I said, it could be an organization, but it could be even internalized within yourself, right? That you've understood you are good when you do blank. You are valuable when you achieve blank. That has to also be reconsidered. Because so often, especially in Western society, American society, we're trained to think about our value in terms of something that someone else tells us is valuable. Grades, salaries, titles, achievements, awards, best of blank, 30 under 30s, 50 under 50s, 2017, 2025, like whatever it may be. Right? Like there are all of these achievements that are determined by someone else, something outside of us. And the best thing you can do for yourself is a blank slate as much as possible that wipes all of that off the board. Because so much of our true, intrinsic, innate value has nothing to do with measurement. It has everything to do with our internal alignment, with what we value, with what matters to our life, to the experiences we want to have, to the people we love, to the ways in which we believe we're being good people, kind, warm, loving people. And those things are not measured by some external KPI. That you are the value. That you as you are is inherently valuable. Yes, you will do things that may help others, that may make something really, useful for other people. But your value, your individual personal value is not determined by that usefulness, by that helpfulness. There is a rooting, especially when we're transitioning through uncertainty and chaos and too much noise in our heads, when we're moving from something that we've been doing for a while into something new, it's a scary time. It's an uncertain time. It's a time that brings up a lot of our own internal shit and our fears about our enoughness, about our value. And if you allow yourself a recalibration on what you are valuable for, you will go so much farther because you will allow yourself to think outside of the box of your productivity, of your usefulness. I've worked with hundreds of people to clarify what they want and their path forward and what's next in their next chapter, their next kind of iteration of life that they want to live. And this is where most often people get stuck in the movement towards that life, is because the rooting of this life was grounded through an understanding of what your identity was, tied to often what you are producing. Especially people who have succeeded, who are actually really successful on paper. But the on paper has always been determined externally. The on paper was a company or the market telling you that you did good. And as you transition, oftentimes people want to transition is because this doesn't work anymore. Something is no longer aligned here. Something is telling you that a change needs to happen. Even if you're not 100% sure where you're changing to, you know that this has to change. And in the process of that transition from where you are to where you can move into next, there are some fundamental shifts that also have to happen. And one of the most important ones is around how you understand your value. There are a lot of other things like fears, self-doubts, imposter syndrome, fear of failure, questioning your worthiness, like all that stuff can come into play as well. But why I'm trying to deliver this hint is because if you know as you move through this period, this will be one of the harder things for you to reprogram, to deprogram, and then reprogram into something more aligned and meaningful, you can start the work earlier. You can already consider shedding the notion of your value tied to these previous markers of success, productivity, usefulness, that you get to decide how you want to define that you get to filter for yourself. What is meaningful to you? What is valuable to you? What feels like you are creating something good for yourself and not anyone else? That it is not about you doing for others, but rather you doing for you. And when you ground yourself in that, what you can create potentially to help others, to be useful, to be valuable to something outside of yourself will be that much more aligned because it starts with yourself. That you won't be operating in a way that is not entirely rooted in yourself. That there's no part of yourself you're giving up. There's no part of yourself that you are devaluing, because inherently the value is coming just from you being you, just from you existing. And because you have superpowers, because you have passions and interests, because you have skills that are valuable, you will mix all of that magic together and turn it into something valuable, useful, potentially for other people, ideally for other people. But first and foremost, what makes you inherently valuable is not going to be because you made something useful for other people, that you are helpful to other people. It's because you already are. And when you root yourself in that, a deep understanding and belief in your value, then everything you build comes from a place of worthiness, of enoughness. That there's nothing you have to prove to anyone that you are valuable. The doing is just you realizing the impact you want to have on the world. It's just you creating what you want to see in the world. But it is not at all about you ensuring that other people validate or other people give you the signals that you're good or that you're enough or that you're valuable, because you already know. And so the core transition that I hope you make as you navigate this new chapter, this next step, is a regrounding, a return to your inherent core value. And I call it a return because if you think about babies, kids, when they come here, when their stardust, their magic stardust arrives on this planet, they don't question their value. They don't question their worth. They know what they want very clearly. They don't go around kind of thinking, what do I have to do to prove myself? They just ask. They just do. They just are. And it's only through learned behavior, it's only through external signals do they start to edit that. Do they start to adjust what they ask for, how they ask, questioning, oh, if I don't get this enough times, oh, maybe I don't deserve this thing. But that's all through external signals. Whatever environment they grow up in that teaches them, oh, this is how you have to act to survive, to get what you need, to get what you want. But if you just think about the way you've seen kind of that pure innocence operating, there is no question within themselves about their value. They just exist and they act from that place. And so I hope you can return to that place as you navigate this transition, as you start to move into your next step, because that will give you a fearlessness that will fuel this next step, that will fuel you through uncertainty and unpredictability, because you're trying something new. And it will be uncertain, and it will be unpredictable, and there will be things that don't work out. But when you are grounded in your value, when you do not question your value, when you do not need external inputs to tell you you are valuable, and there's nothing you have to prove to anyone else about your inherent value, that is where fearlessness comes from. It is not fearlessness in the form of having no fear around every action that you take or every endeavor that you try. It isn't having no fear of existing as you. It is of fearless self-trust and self-love, because you don't question your being. You don't question your inherent value. It is solid because this is your core and you operate from this core. The fearlessness sits here. And if you can navigate your transition knowing that that's what you're building towards, then you're going to start so much earlier than everyone else. Because so often what happens is as people kind of navigate a transition, they start the doing and then realize all the shit that comes up. Realize all the ways in which they've looked and needed external validation. In all the ways that they've understood their value because other people told them so. Through rewards, awards, money, accolades, status. But if you don't need any of that, not to say you don't want any of that, and it's not to say that it isn't nice if you were to receive it, but if you don't need any of that to understand your core value, then you will navigate this transition that much faster and that much more smoothly because you're doing that work in parallel. And so I hope that hint is something that registers, and I hope you find this before you even navigate your transition or start it, because that is some of the core work that people have to undergo to recalibrate their understanding of self and to recalibrate their understanding of their own value, to adjust it from the external to the internal. And if you can navigate that, if you can do that, the paths you take forward won't be riddled with this angst. You won't be waiting for signals from other people. You will be able to act. You will be able to do. You will be able to explicitly say what it is that you want and need. Just like returning back to the magical stardust that we had when we got here. And not question how other people are going to respond when you exist as you. Because again, you trust your inherent value. And that's all you need.